Hello, my name is Dr. Kasia. I'm CEO and owner of EBV Global Institute, and today we're going to have a big training on vitamin C and EBV. Let me just grab my resources here so I can use my cheat sheet because I have a lot of information for you. So, vitamin C is amazing, and we kind of think we know what it does, but in terms of chronic infections like EBV, that's an entirely different story. And I'm going to tell you about different forms of supplementation. I'm not going to talk about food as much because by the time you have chronic EBV, food sources of vitamin C may not be enough to do the heavy lifting that we need for the antiviral activity therapeutically. We're going to talk about IV intravenous therapy, when to apply it and when not to apply it, and pros and cons. Excuse me, I just had breakfast. um, and I'm going to also share some pitfalls, things about EBV, things about beyond EBV, things about vitamin C, rather, that you may not be aware of that should put vitamin C on your radar. So let's get started with the big one because I get a lot of questions about that. Vitamin C uh, intravenous therapy. So the IV therapy for vitamin C is very well established. Excuse me. In medical literature, there was a particular medical doctor that cataloged his decades of working with intravenous IV therapy for vitamin C, specifically for various infections and various chronic medical conditions, doing mega doses intravenously very successfully. Dr. Frederick Klenner, if you can find him online. So it is effective. There are studies showing that it will shrink the time of healing. So it reduces the infections timeline and also decreases the antibodies. The levels of vitamin C in the intravenous drip, it depends on the doctor that is administering it. Okay, so I'm just getting some feedback. We may have some technical issues. I hope everybody can see it. Let me just check here. Okay, it's fine now. And so the dosage may vary from close to 10 grams to 50 grams, not milligrams, grams of vitamin C. Now, there's pros and cons of that therapy. First of all, the dose will last a couple of days, so people technically will feel better. You will turn off the virus. However, you're going to have to return after a few days and do it again, because once it stops, it stops. So it's not a sustainable therapy long term unless you have access to that IV locally and you can just walk in as you need. And this is one of the complaints because it doesn't build you up from other directions. So in order to be most successful with EBV and have a long-term recovery from, you really want the building blocks, not just one. So that's one of the issue. Another caution I have to share with you is that some people cannot tolerate IV therapy, and there's a reason for it. The same population should not do ozone therapy for the same reason. So let me explain. There is an enzyme that a percentage of population does not produce. And any doctor that suggests doing IV treatment with vitamin C to you should test that enzyme. People that do not produce that enzyme will literally lyse their red blood cells, breaking them down, and so you can become severely anemic and So people can have a lot of symptoms. It can be dangerous. So the enzymes is called G6PD, glucose 6 phosphate dehydrogenase. And the populations that are at risk of this deficiency in particular are people that have darker skin, uh, African American origin, Mediterranean origin. So you need to be aware of that. So that's the big one. But yes, it is effective. That's what we know from studies. Let's move on, talk about other benefits and what we know about vitamin C. In terms of EBV, there is an inverse correlation between the levels of vitamin D, vitamin C, vitamin D as well, but vitamin C in today's education, and in your plasma and the level of EBV antibodies. One of the things that vitamin C does, it helps enhance the production of gamma interferon, and gamma interferon is available through zinc and licorice as well. We have trainings on those in individual videos you can watch. And so the gamma interferon helps prevent cells from being infected by viruses in general. And if you look at research, especially it's important for the central nervous system for protection from viral infection and damage. So that's really relevant. People always complain about brain fog or feeling like the brain is on fire. When we talk about EBV, we can't ignore mitochondria. So if you are not familiar with mitochondria, inside your cell, there are little mitochondria placed all over the cell, and they internally create, it's like an engine making energy. It's a little bit like in your bedroom, you have a heating source. So imagine that the heating source in your room is like the energy source in your cell. So if you don't have that heat on in winter, you will be cold. If the mitochondria are not creating energy inside the cells will be tired. If the cells are tired internally, your whole body is tired, and you are tired, you have fatigue. And chronic fatigue is a most common symptom of EBV. So what's relevant is that there are different electron transport chain complexes within mitochondria where different nutrients have to be involved in different chains, and vitamin C is one of them. So if you don't have vitamin C, you are not building that energy production efficiently. So you are adding to fatigue internally in the cells, translating into your lower energy. It's very important. And I think what's the most relevant to EBV community is this, and hear me on this. The biggest reactivating trigger of EBV, chronic EBV, is stress. Number one, no matter what you do, stress will always be it. And the organ, the gland that produces stress hormones is adrenals. And guess where the highest concentration of vitamin C in our body is? In our adrenal glands. So vitamin C is one of the two key nutrients that supports adrenals. And this is why a lot of functional doctors will put you on vitamin C if they see that your adrenals are insufficient, that they are taxed. And in our community, they are chronically taxed. So vitamin C becomes relevant even in terms of, how fast you deplete vitamin C in stress, how much you have to replete it to support your adrenals, because they have been taxed basically by the virtue of having chronic infection. It just comes with the territory. A lot of people have chronic EBV, reactivating chronic EBV because of very deep stress related to your life. That's often how it happens. So yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? And another thing on a cellular level is when you look at your cell structure and integrity, the cell has a membrane, and that membrane requires certain nutrients for integrity. One of them is omega-3, and the other one is vitamin C. So that is very important. People don't realize that nucleus is not the brain of your cell. It's the membrane, because the membrane is the contact with the external world. the membrane has to decide whether something is a nutrient or a pathogen. Do I let it in or not into my cell? Do I let it in? Oh, vitamin C, I'm going to let it in. Vitamin B, I'm going to let it in because I need those nutrients inside for many functions. So if that membrane is compromised, then your cell literally can die. It's very dangerous. So here's another reason to have vitamin C. Another benefit of vitamin C is that it decreases NF-kappa B activity. I talk about NF-kappa B everywhere. And you can see it on our website. Just Google my name and NF-kappa B. It probably will come up. NF-kappa B is an inflammatory protein that we create in our body. And it has some benefits, but it's exceedingly toxic when it's in higher amounts. And what creates that environment is junk food, for example. And the point here is that NF-kappa B is one of the favorite things for EBV to use to replicate. So it kind of hijacks NF-kappa B and starts replicating. The more NF-kappa B you have, the more you're going to enhance the replication of the virus. There was an interesting study of like a typical fast food breakfast, and they measured the NF-kappa B increase. It was increased by 150%, and for the duration of 2 hours. So this would be the opening of the window for EBV reactivation. If you have to travel and you have no other option, you have to eat in a fast food restaurant. Watch if during those 2 hours you feel worse. Maybe for other reasons, but maybe also an opening to vitamin C. So the big thing I wanna impress upon you is that we are in this population severely depleted in vitamin C. There was a huge U.S. population study many years ago, 2001, 2002, and the result was that it was 31% didn't meet even the standard mediocre estimated average requirements for vitamin C. And those requirements are just the intake level at which the needs of 50% of population are met. So it's a very meager, very mediocre requirement level. And I guarantee almost that if we did the same study now, it would be not 31%, it would be like double, 62%. We consistently see that vitamin C is dropping in the level in produce, in foods, predominantly because the soil is depleted. We have studies showing that organic soil has more vitamin C. We also lose vitamin C in the processing of food, the way we treat the food, we heat the food. It's lost in microwaving, for example, as well. So we are not having the same amount of vitamin C from one orange or one apple that we did 100 years ago or 70 years ago. And this is where it's important to look at the whole big picture and say, okay, what are my needs because of the EBV? Where am I on the spectrum of all this situation? The stress, the access to organic produce, do I microwave all my dinners? Do I eat a lot of foods that have vitamin C? That's another story. And if you look at it from this perspective, you will see that you really therapeutically need to supplement. So let's talk about the supplementation other than IV therapy. What do you do with that? Typically, vitamin C comes in 500 milligram increments, sometimes 1,000 milligrams. I would say if you can get vitamin C with bioflavonoids mixed in them, that would be more beneficial because bioflavonoids potentiate and expand the activity of that vitamin C for you, kind of recycles and helps it work longer. And I will also say that the higher the dose at one take, the lower the absorption of the whole thing. So you may do much better if you do more frequent capsules of 500 than just, 2,000 milligrams at one go. Also, I would suggest that you take vitamin C with food. So if you don't want to forget vitamin C, you can put it on the dinner table every time you have a snack or a meal. You can just take one capsule. That would probably be the best. Some people use vitamin C to bowel tolerance, and I'll tell you this is a little bit dangerous. They can pop between 20 to 40 grams. This is not something that I would ever recommend or advocate for. It is called vitamin C to bowel tolerance. Um, this is how people measure how much vitamin C they need. They flash loose stool if they go beyond that point, so they can figure out how much is what they need. The problem with this is it's not sustainable. And then if you have this level of vitamin C and then you stop abruptly, you can actually develop scurvy. That's like you don't play with these things. You really have to work with a medical doctor that is familiar with this process and has done that with their patients. So I'm just saying this because it is on the table. People read on this. They may experiment. I would say would be really, really cautious. Um, it is different from magnesium. It takes time for magnesium to produce a little stool if people are constipated, or with vitamin C, you're going to flash really fast. So you have to be close to the bathroom. And it's really not that such a good idea. Um, I want to also finish with one pearl. You are familiar with scurvy, probably. Now, scurvy was a condition caused by severe deficiency of vitamin C. When your gums start bleeding, your teeth start being loose. The further on, if vitamin C deficiency is not addressed, people go into deliriums, psychosis, and then they die. So vitamin C, we don't make. We don't manufacture it from anything. We have to consume it from plants, from food. We do. We are one of the mammals, unusual on this planet, that don't produce any. And so we have to supply it. And so scurvy used to be, associated with sailing and ships being out on water for half a year, 1 year. So they had to have oranges and lemons on the ship, to prevent it. But what I want to tell you is that there have been cases reported of scurvy in America right now in college students. That is horrifying. So we're not doing very well with vitamin C. And of course, vitamin C is generally such a great antiviral uh, support. So with that information, I hope I am inspiring you to revisit vitamin C. Make sure you check up the food that you have. It's not just oranges and apples, it's also vegetables, it's red bell peppers, it's broccoli, it's potatoes. Potatoes have a lot of vitamin C, actually. Your berries, fruits, obviously. So vitamin C is in foods. However, in chronic EBV, we're going beyond the food resources. We have to go therapeutically a little deeper. So, okay, I hope this is helpful, and I will see you on the next training where we will talk about something exciting related to EBV. Always have a wonderful day, and I'll see you on the next training.